Hey everybody, it's Dr. Kelly with your next LRNiT Moment. I have a question that's been burning into my brain and I need you to help me work on it. Because why is it that in the world of marketing, you always want to figure out who you're marketing to, but in the world of education, it's approached more from the standpoint of, I have information, you need my information, I will convey it to you, and you will absorb it. It just doesn't work for me. I think it's more like a treasure map. And you know what's funny about a treasure map is you'll never get to X if you don't have a starting point. I can give you the best directions in the world, but you can never get to X if you don't know where to start. In this episode of the next LRNiT Moment, I want to find out what you truly desire. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Kelly. I used to be a teacher in the toughest classrooms in the worst neighborhoods with the most difficult students. And what I learned there changed everything I thought I knew about content creation and delivery. Over the past 25 years, I've taught thousands of students, both in person and online. And what I can tell you is that effective online engagement is the hardest thing you'll ever do without guidance. So I've dedicated this channel to showing people exactly how to capture attention, hold engagement, and create transformation. Every single part of it. I love learning, I love teaching and making an impact, and that's all you're gonna find right here. All right, let's get into it. How is education like a treasure map? How is education like marketing? Because if we take a 30,000 foot view, now let's do this with me. We're gonna go up at 30,000 feet and look down, because when you're creating educational content of any kind, what's really crucial is that you understand the student. You get into the student's mind to find out what they're in. Where are they at? How do we, in marketing world, we always say, step into the conversation of your prospect. Well, in education, more and more, you're going to have to start thinking, how do we market our educational material to students so that we are stepping into their conversation, so that we know them better? Now, let's look at this, because I want you to think of it like this. I want you to think of education like you're developing it for 3 different kinds of developmental students, all through a developmental career. Now, let's say you were making guitar lessons. I like guitar lessons. I would like to learn how to play the guitar, but I own a guitar, but I had no idea even how to hold it. I just like it. I would love to learn how to hold it. So that would make me a beginner, I think. However, chronologically, I may not be a beginner in life, and I've got some life experience. If you were creating guitar lessons for me, so now we're stepping into me, into my world, you'd say, well, you know what? If you take my lesson, you'd be able to play songs in the campfire in 25 minutes or less. And now you got my attention. I'm like, I would love to learn how to play the guitar so that I could take my guitar out of the basement to the campfire outside in the backyard, play some guitar, and in 25 minutes actually not look like an idiot. You got me. I got 25 minutes. I'm in. I'm hooked. You got me. Why don't we do that with education? Why is it only with marketing? Because we're missing it. And I can tell you this, that if you don't get on board with start marketing your content to students, no one will consume it anymore. And that's what's really crucial. So think of it like this. When you're creating your content, create it for the different kinds of learner wherever they are in life. So you think of the beginner. Now, chronologically, maybe that'd be like somebody that's young, right? Like a 14, 15-year-old, and they're trying to search. They're trying to find out how your content relates to them, how they can use that content to develop their own identity. Do you see how that content development, how that creation, how that twisting of the same content would be very different than a mature student? Now, chronologically, we'd be talking about somebody in their 40s or 50s, and they're more about maturity, stability, legacy, right? That's a very different content approach. When you're dealing with, say, let's just make it simple and say there's 3 different kinds of learners. There's your beginner, there's your intermediate, and then there's an advanced. And those types of learners, regardless of their chronological age, emotionally, you're creating that content to try to hook it into whatever their chronological age actually is. And that's where it's really important that you start to look at this content development. What is it? And this is the key question. When you sit down and you start to develop your map on where X is, what you want your learners to actually get to, where are they starting? Where are we taking this content from, and where do we want the learner to go to? And I want you to think of learners now in all aspects, not chronological, but just developmental. And then you can start to think chronologically, how do we tie this content into wherever they are in life? That's how you're going to start starting to create better, more specific content for people that are in different phases of life with different knowledges. Because remember, when you've got the amount of information that's being produced right now globally, your information should be more and more and more specific to a select group of people that are experiencing life in a similar manner. So on the marketing side, we say step into the conversation. I want you to step in and peel back and really think, who are we trying to create this content for? Is it for an 18-year-old who's just learning, or is it for a 50-year-old who's advanced already? Because those content creation, yes, the content's going to be different, but maybe it's for an 18-year-old who's advanced. Do you see how a 50-year-old who's advanced and an 18-year-old who's advanced, how those two content messaging, how when you're creating it, I want you to picture the guy on the other side. Picture that you're actually teaching in a one-on-one environment to the guy on the other side, and he's 18, and maybe he's got earrings and a tattoo, and his hair is down to the middle of his back, and maybe he doesn't own a cell phone. Holy, now you've got a really good image of how you're going to craft that content to that exact individual. Now, if we explode it up to a bigger, like 30,000 foot view, now we want to create this content maybe corporately for the same type of person, for a specific job role, for a specific section on where they're coming into the company. Right? Maybe they're coming in at an advanced C-suite. Maybe they're coming in at an entry-level data entry. You know what? Your messaging, your content creation, your development of culture is going to be very, very different depending on where you are addressing it. And truly, if you want it to be engaging, if you want it to be consuming, you have to step into that conversation. And I know everybody thinks that's so basic, but I can promise you, very few of you are doing it. So, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is very simple today. All I want you to do is take your content, take a page of content, take any content you've created, and I want you to start thinking, how can I craft this? And craft it for 3 different people. Craft it for a 18-year-old, and let's use middle of the road because that's probably the easiest. Middle of the road, guy who's 18, he's an intermediate student, he's got a little bit of knowledge, not a master. Take a 50-year-old, same guy, middle of the road. He's got a little bit of a knowledge, but he's not a master. How are we going to craft that content differently so that you can step right into the conversation and feel like you know this guy, you know this gal? You know what they're going through. You know the conversation they're having. You know the struggles that they're experiencing out there in the real world. Now we can actually start to craft that material specific for our consumer. And that's what we want in education. Go out there and kill it, guys. We'll see you in the next LRNiT Moment.